Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Cybersecurity Amplified and Intensified with your host, Eric Taylor, myself, Shiva Maharaj, joined once again by Jonathan Scott with two new guests, Haseeb, Awan, and James. We don't know James's last name because it's top secret. So that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, I guess you sent a Twitter message out, and you were in your one of your podcasts. You were speaking about kind of getting into SIM card security, and it kind of triggered me to say, hey, let's involve a couple of these people that I know, some leaders in this industry that are doing some pretty amazing things, and so that's kind of me like forcing the podcast to happen.
Let's forcing. We all did this willingly.
Right.
So let's give a little context, because let's just pretend like, not everybody listens to everything.
Sure.
So Jonathan was on our podcast a couple episodes ago, and he was talking about Pegasus and the whole train wreck that is. And even since that, we found out, that Pegasus is actually being used in the US against, the powers to be in the US, the government, and maybe even Secret Service, or who knows how deep this thing really trolls down. But during that conversation, we were talking about data that was on the SIM card that carriers are able to potentially hijack cell phone data from. And that's kind of what prompted this whole conversation. We really wanted to go down this rabbit hole a little bit, and we're not going to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, we're not getting very, very technical on this one. If you're listening to this podcast and you want real deep technical stuff, we may have to sanitize some stuff just for people not to get in trouble, but maybe that'd be a third episode that we will do, where we can really go into some of that. If you want that, if you're seeing that, type into the chat, deep dive or something. I don't know. But, that's kind of what prompted this. And, Jonathan was nice enough to bring Copperhead, which is an operating system of sorts, and we're going to ask him a little bit about that. How exactly Copperhead is actually helping try to protect some of the Android stuff. And we'll talk to Steve here. He is a cell phone carrier that is located down in California. So that's kind of where we're bringing this together and hopefully having a good discussion. So I guess, Jonathan, let's pick up there. I don't want to talk Pegasus too much, because there's a lot of fluid information there, and I'm sure we could have another conversation. But
right,
I think a good place to start would be you going into a little bit of detail about how SIM cards upload their XML package to create backdoors.
Excellent.
Or by most carriers, if not all, except for EFANI.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, so recently, I was a speaker at DAMCON 2021. So it's a conference, a security conference, and I actually did a demonstration of exactly what we're talking about. So the demo device was a Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus, and I believe it was running operating system 9.0 or 10.0, somewhere around there. But this vulnerability is still current in the latest Android operating system on Samsung's, LG's, and pretty much every other Android out there. And so, okay, I'll kind of back up a little bit. When you install a SIM card into a device, there's packets that there's programs that are already installed on the SIM card itself. So SIM card actually has, think about it as an operating system, but it's actually, you can write code for the SIM card, and it's, written in Java, and it has, like, say, PRL packages or whatever it may be that the carrier wants to install and have triggered, on the device. So this is why whenever you put in a SIM card, say you have an unlocked Samsung Galaxy Note, and you plug in a Verizon SIM card, Well, then when you open up your apps, you can see all the Verizon apps, but then you pop in an AT&T SIM card and you're going to see all the AT&T apps, right? And you don't have to actually be connected to the internet for this, because what's happening is there's this swapping, right? So this XML data is being swapped out. It's so it's already written into the operating system, right? These XML files are already available inside of the core of Android, right? So the OEM, which would be in this case Samsung, original equipment manufacturer, the OEM, has this deal with these network carriers, and so their packet, they're commented out. Let's just say that until that trigger, to say the SIM card and then the phone meet each other, then these carrier specific packages become enumerated. They become enabled. Now this is the issue, right? So every carrier has their own backdoor, and they call it diagnostics, right? They call it debugging. And so, for example, the demonstration that I did was on an AT&T device, and previous. So this was for the DamCon conference. And you can see clearly that in the demonstration, the AT&T logo comes up, and so what happens is I'm actually able to enable Android Debug Bridge without authentication. It doesn't matter if there's a lock on the device. It doesn't matter if there's a passcode on the device. And I also tweeted out, the communications with Samsung, that they acknowledge this vulnerability exists, and they say that they fixed it, which they have not. And so, these things are, so AT&T, Verizon, Sprint / T-Mobile, right? They're combined now. Let's just take these American carriers, for example. This backdoor allows them to silently be in your device without you ever knowing. All right. And so this is exactly how, spyware can be spread. This is exactly how malware can be spread. And because if people actually know what these vulnerabilities are, then they can exploit them.
Got a question for you.
The whole purpose. Yeah. Go ahead, Eric.
Are these cards encrypted at all? So like if I worked at a Sprint store or T-Mobile or whatever, and I had a little bit of a fart of intelligence, I could potentially just start. Is there a way of preventing someone from just adding a repo to be installed on a brand new phone that's get that SIM card? Is there any encryption at all?
Yeah. So there's no there's no security on these cards at all. Like at all. I mean, you can get a general SIM card reader, plug it in, and read the data on them. There's a lot of utilities that you can actually use. Unfortunately. So like SimTrace is it's an open source operating system that you can use to actually look at the data on the SIM cards, as easy as I can say it, and write on it as well. Something simple like less than $10, right? But that's the problem too, right? Is it most people are not looking at this. They don't care to think about the SIM card and how it affects the operating system and the device itself.
Yeah, because until you and I talked, I knew there was some stuff always embedded in there, right? Because like you were saying, if you put a SIM card in, 9 times out of 10, it will show the carrier, on the boot up screen. So I knew there was some coding there, but I didn't really think you could really do a whole lot. I figure it was just an encryption key or identifying key, a combination of both that lets me get onto a carrier network once I'm registered. I didn't really think you could really do all of that with these SIM cards.
Right. Yeah. So in one of the I guess teasers that I put out for the DamCon conference, I showed a video of when I plugged in a SIM card. In this video on Twitter, it was a Sprint SIM card. I put it into this exact same phone that I used it in the conference, and you could see a blue screen with a SIM card on it, and it was these dots were animated, and it was showing that this information was being loaded from the SIM card onto the device. So it's a blue screen, and most people have never seen this screen before, ever. right? It's a blue screen with a SIM card, and it's literally loading the SIM card data. It's and when I first saw this years ago, I was like, what is this? Why is it that I change out these SIM cards, this actually comes up? Super interesting. And then of course, after reverse engineering the firmware, you can actually see the different carriers, and you can see their different XML packages that are built into the operating system for Samsung in this particular case. And it just kind of uncomments it. And then now you have this, backdoor specific to that network.
Now, is this limited to Android, or does this occur with iPhone, Apple iPhones as well?
This does happen with Apple iPhones as well. And it's a whole nother level, the whole different level with iPhones. But the plist data it's pretty similar. So plists and XML, they almost pretty much go hand in hand, right? But yes, exactly. It is almost exactly the same with these carriers.
So this is almost backdoor by design.
It is. And the communications that I have even recently with LG, they said, because I said, hey, we need to stop this backdoor because people can inject spyware with it. And they said, it's not that easy because all of us, we have a lot of services that are using these backdoors. And all these communications are out in the open right now on my Twitter feed. I mean, it's just unreal, So, yeah.
So does this problem get more amplified for these third-party carriers like
Cricket?
These, like Cricket and things of that nature. So is it more a possible issue because they're just piggybacking across multiple networks?
So let's just take Cricket, for example, is running off AT&T, right? And so they're going to have the same code that's in an AT&T SIM card. They're going to have that same XML data that's triggered, except the MCC and the MNC, which is the mobile network code. Those are going to be pretty similar. That's going to be different. It's going to basically say Cricket versus AT&T. It's an MVNO is what it's called. It's just like a subset of a carrier, but it's all the same. I mean, if Cricket is owned by AT&T, it's the same thing. Same backdoor. Yeah, exactly.
It's built into the
infrastructure. Yeah.
Technology.
Right.
As a quick side note here, a couple years ago, there's a nice public war of words between Apple and the FBI to unlock an iPhone. Sounds like all that was just a puppet show when they could have used these backdoors to get into the device.
The SIM card was off though, right? It was it's an off device. They probably removed the SIM card.
Yeah. Let's just say that I worked on a case for some agency and
for forensics. So they probably weren't able to open it up.
Sorry about that, James. Looks like we lost you for a minute there. You want to try doing your statement?
Yeah, say it again, James.
You cut out there, James. Someone didn't like what you were saying, so they temporarily halted your internet.
I don't remember. I was just thinking, I think it was with the iPhone San Bernardino case, right?
Yes, that's the one I was referring to.
Okay, yeah. Well, the phone was turned off, and it was probably put in airplane mode, so it probably couldn't access the SIM. And like device level forensics is generally a little bit different than SIM lawful interception and stuff like that.
It's amazing now that iPhones, when you put them into airplane mode, doesn't do the same thing that happened for that case, doesn't it?
No, it is amazing.
It's
funny because
it's a placebo off button.
A lot of times they take the SIM card out during these forensics exams so that that network is not pulled in, which is like, don't do that. Stop doing that. Yeah, it's
a Faraday bag, right? And then that way the phone won't auto wipe from like a MDM or something.
Yeah, yeah. So they'll try to cut off every communications, but they don't realize actually what they're doing. In those cases, it's actually kind of removing that back door that allows them to be in. Yeah,
it's going to be interesting because on a side note, there, I've talked about going through SANS classes here, just advancing my IR, and I've got a class in March, I think, for advanced Android and iOS forensics. So I'm going to be interested to see what that class really holds after this conversation.
Jonathan will be testing you 3 weeks after.
That'd be awesome.
So, Haseeb,
Yes.
Jonathan mentioned that he could not hack your SIM. Why not?
Well, you want to know the recipe or you want to know why?
I think if you gave the recipe, your competitors would have it. High level overview. What makes you guys different?
Number one, our business model. Like a lot of these things can be prevented, but technically, I don't blame AT&T or any major carrier for that, right? The cost of telecom is rising. If you look at EBITDA, it's very difficult to make money. The easiest way is to make money is by selling you data. And frankly, 99% people are okay with it. They may say, I don't hate my being sold, but if you give them iPhone, but I'll need your DNA report, they will give it to them. So I believe that I don't blame the company as much because the cost of putting those checks in place is very, very expensive. So it's like putting it in convenience. Like I'll give you a simple example. At EFANI, if something get lost, it takes 24 to 48 hours to recover it. Cell phone. If you're on a regular person who lost his phone, you want it within 2 minutes. And you'll make a deal out of it. So FCC has to cover. Second thing is when AT&T have to cater or big telcos have to cater to any company, they have to look at not just the iPhone, they have to look at if there's a 3G phone on there, if there's an IoT device, if there's someone running on, it's like you tell the internet not to connect with anyone using Windows 98. So they have to reduce their encryption and security to the lowest level because they're dealing with a lot of mass market. So that's the reason I don't blame either of those companies for what they do. Secondly, we all operate under the law of America. So if someone comes to you and gets a subpoena, you have to turn over the data. They just make it much simpler because they get like tens and tens of thousands of requests per day. So why make your job difficult and just turn over the data? So selling data is actually industry. It's a massive industry and that's what they are in. So they're not in telecom business. So that's the first thing that we have to realize about these companies. Every company is a surveillance company. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, everyone. Even StreamYard and every company is a surveillance company. They use data and they sell the data. That's how they make money. Now, what we do is we change the business model. We say there are two people who will use it, who will buy your data. It's either the criminals or so-called criminals or you. So we give an option to the customer that why don't you pay for the data so we don't have to do for it. And you'll be surprised at how many people still compare you to, oh, why aren't you like $30 per month and something? Because yes, this is what you signed up for. So what we have done is we applied a lot of encryption and a lot of things on the network side. So if you take our SIM card, there's nothing on the SIM card. It's just basically a placeholder. Like I said, and what we have done is we have attached a lot of pseudo properties to the SIM card. So even if you get one hash, you would not be able to encrypt second hash. And in a lot of cases, in majority of the cases, even EFANI cannot do that. So even we're building a system where if we get some information, we cannot even encrypt it because we don't have access to that. Now, it's just purely, we haven't done any, I would say, rocket science, and I don't want to be, we just pretty much took encryption protocols that are available, like FIPS 142, certified, and all those kinds of things that were already available. And we just applied on SIM card, which were not done before. And the reason why it's not done before is because it's complex, it's expensive, it's not a mass market.
Who is your target demographic?
So we work with CEOs of C-level executives of major companies, hedge fund lawyers, a lot of accountants, celebrities. 90% of customers have crypto focused because that was the major problem.
Yeah.
And we are not a mass market, and we tell this pretty much up. We only literally have one plan. It's either
How much is that plan?
It's $100 per month.
Why can't it be 30?
Uh,
I'm just joking.
yeah.
But okay.
We do have another offering which we call Black Seal Protection, and we just give it to, which is expensive, but we don't give it to like public right now. It's like kind of invite only.
Okay.
Jonathan had a copy of it, but we just give it to anyone. We say, take it and hack it. There's no disclosure required. A lot of companies will ask you to sign up. Okay, you can do this. You can also take the card, do whatever you want to do.
So what would EFANI be able to respond to in a subpoena?
We give whatever data we have.
Which it would
But-
be?
Almost nothing.
Well, I mean, but
I was
that's
getting ready to
something, right?
Sorry?
That almost is still something. So what type of
Sure.
data? Signal will say, we can tell you the last time the phone connected to the system. We can tell
Yeah, we can do that. We can
created.
possibly look.
What would be in a response from EFANI to a subpoena?
Well, depend. So subpoena have specific requirements, or what requirement are they?
But I know
looking
the
for.
legal side. Don't worry about that.
Yeah,
Let's get away from the buzzwords and the
Yeah.
detecting questions. Like,
Yeah,
what data is available to you that you
we can tell you where the SIM card was shipped.
okay?
We can possibly tell the call records which were made.
Why
You know,
possibly?
Sorry,
Why possibly? Is that
Because
because of the billing engine?
the billing engine, because you can dispute tomorrow. I never made this call.
Okay.
We have to charge something. Secondly, we can tell you total data you did. We cannot tell you what data flew through, but we can tell you this many gigabytes of data was consumed.
Okay.
We can tell you where if the phone roamed on which towers.
Here's an interesting question for you. Are you familiar with the program called Smarsh?
No.
James, Jonathan?
No.
It's a text archiving solution that a lot of major enterprise companies use to be able to archive all text messages going in and out of a device. And I'm assuming, Jonathan, this probably plays into the backdoor by design of a SIM card because it's done at the carrier level. Doesn't work on iMessage, but it works on traditional text messaging. I'd be interested, maybe, if you can get back to me, Haseeb, on that, whether or not Smarsh is compatible with your platform, where it can pull the text messages and archive them.
Yeah, it's the text messages from EFANI left on the SIM card.
No, it's in the network, but we don't have access to that specific portion because what we are doing is we are actually building like a telecom in a box solution where you are your own core. So we don't have access to that core. In a nutshell, what happened is that we cannot access those messages. So if someone comes to me and says, subpoena, what Jonathan messaged to Shiva, I have no access to that data.
Okay. But yeah, if you can get back to me and let me know if you guys are compatible with Smarsh or not, that would be interesting. SMARSH.
Sure, I'll look into that, yeah.
It's
So
interesting. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
So is EFANI just in California, or are you like some of the other carriers where you piggyback off AT&T, Verizon, and stuff like that? Like where?
No, we are pretty much across America, and actually now we offer roaming in 80 countries. So we are able to onboard countries from 80 countries.
What's your underlying network? Are you buying airtime from Sprint or Verizon or something like that?
Yeah. So we work with multiple carriers in America. Pretty much every major carrier. There's
Something
in
like
America.
what Google's doing, I guess, with their.
So Google is different, but yes, you can say that we are similar. We work on some carriers that Google does not work with. And we have a very
mixing and matching, I guess, was the question.
Yeah. So we work on the strongest network. So if you are any carrier, you are anyone who has the strongest signal will connect to that in any country. So with Google, if you land to Italy, you don't get the high-speed internet. We operate on the highest priority. So if you land in Italy, you will basically get the fastest speed possible.
So are you, because you seemingly carrier agnostic, does that mean you're just using their cell towers as an access point?
Yeah, so we call it RAN. So we use the RAN and we roam into. So we are a roaming part. Every carrier is a roaming partner for us. And if you use our phone, it will also show like roaming in a lot of situations.
Cool.
So for a carrier, like if you're talking about Sprint, because Sprint doesn't exist, so I can talk about them easily. Sprint is like an orange carrier or like someone from Italy is roaming into their network. And they just take all the traffic and just throw it off.
Okay.
I have a question. Does the EFANI SIM cards require the carrier packages?
If they do, so we have a sponsor every character. That's a very, very I would say depressing. That's a very touchy topic because for a lot of people, a lot of people don't know that there's something called app carrier packages, which means that you have to pay carrier specific amount of money per year for them to allow services to work.
Yeah.
So like Apple, it could be like $10 million per year in purchases, because by default, every Apple device should work if it's unlocked. That's if you have an unlocked device, it should work, but it doesn't work. You have to pay Apple to make it work.
And so EFANI asked, like for Sprint specifically, what a firing line we got here, eh? Just on Haseeb.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll bring it. I can't. I'm up against the wall, boys. No, but so does that mean EFANI? Do you have to include the Sprint DM package for Sprint to work?
So we have Apple package. That's your question.
No. Sprint DM.
I don't know what Sprint DM is.
Diagnostic mode. So I can actually tell you about this one. All right. So specifically, what I was testing, I actually tested Sprint. That was one of the actual demos because I know exactly how Sprint works with their diagnostics. And okay, when you insert, so those packages, so let's just say we have Sprint and we want to use Sprint and then we want to pop in the EFANI SIM card. If that SIM card is not talking to the operating system, like let's say, make sure like the SIM card needs to vibe with the operating system that's on the phone. Okay. In order to enable this full backdoor, right? So this is one of the things, like whenever I'm doing these testing, these SIM cards have to be in the devices. Okay. If I pop in an EFANI SIM card with the packages that Sprint has already downloaded onto the device, this backdoor is not going to work. Okay. Because it doesn't actually have this symbiotic relationship doesn't exist. Okay. And this is a very important thing, even when I'm reporting these vulnerabilities, you need to make sure that the SIM card is inserted into the device in order for this to work. Hence why we were talking about, backdoors with forensics and things like that. So that is one of the tests, and I posted that on Twitter, and I actually said, look, I cannot do this with the EFANI SIM card, inserted because that relationship is not happening. But to your point, James, yes, that DM, diagnostics manager is on the device, but it can't communicate properly. Well, just can't communicate. And from my research that I showed.
So sorry, go ahead, Shiva.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so if you have a Sprint SIM card, you put it in, it tries to load DM, you pull it out, put in a EFANI SIM card, it can hop on the Sprint network without DM. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's very good.
Yeah, because we don't, we operate separately, like I'm trying to be very, very cautious with my selection of words, but I'm just saying that, I'm in a very, it's a tough part, right?
Yeah.
Because you want to tell everything.
That red box in the top left-hand corner, it's just a facade. It's just fine.
I know.
Anyway, it's us.
Okay. Anyway, so what we do is, I can tell you one thing that we do have challenges with carriers and also challenges with cell phone providers because the lack of access that we get. Like on black field protection, which is invite only, we still have challenges with getting FaceTime and iMessage to work. And a lot of people don't like it.
Why?
They say, because they say we use FaceTime. I said, why would you?
Why doesn't it work?
Because the way it works is, so IMSI profile, you have to give Apple IMSI profile. These are 50 IMSI profiles that will work on your network, and this is the payment against it. The problem is that because every telecom operator is every person actually an individual operator kind of thing, you cannot put them in one cluster and say these are all the same cards. So you cannot combine them. So it's difficult logistically that on one end you want to make them separately, but other end you want to cluster them in one. So that's the challenge that we may, and because we change IMSI profiles on the go, so every SIM card may have like 10 profiles on the go, which keep on hopping between each other to prevent location tracking and IMSI tracking and all those kinds of issue. And the problem is that when you hop so often, apples get confused in a way that, oh, which profile is this linked to? And they start creating problems for us. We should have a solution within 2 to 3 months, but it's a very touchy topic for us because how you want to do things, but at the same time, you don't want to give control as well.
By extension, does that apply to their new hide my IP feature?
On the Apple?
Yeah.
So it does, right? So we have our own like IP tracking system. So effectively, you can actually have your own APN and VPN on the SIM card. So you don't need to install a VPN on your phone. So if you're an organization of 50 people or 100 people, you can effectively give everyone a SIM card and have your own tunnel that routes the traffic through your own tunnel. So you can block traffic, you can allow traffic without installing a VPN client on your phone.
Right, but
So
this is now built into the iPhone just as a feature with iCloud, where if you're using Safari,
Mhm.
you're essentially proxying through Apple's servers.
Correct. So we just say, we will give you a separate server. That's just yours. So that doesn't depend on Apple or anyone. And Apple is notorious for it. Like, the reason for that is they have their own way of doing business. And even Samsungs of the world, they have their own way of doing business. So everyone want access. And because that's where the problem with the big carrier comes in. When they have to work with mass market, they have to give everything to everyone. And when they give it, a lot of time intentions are notorious, but at the same time, when you open it up for Samsung, why can't you open for LG? Why can't you open for Xiaomi? Why can't you open for every other vendor in the world?
Do you agree with Huawei?
Sorry? Yeah, I think so. Frankly, a lot of people will say that, but I'm sure everything in the world, every chip in the world has some Huawei component or some Chinese kind of component. So maybe Huawei now
That's fake news. Come on. China doesn't manufacture everything for everybody.
Okay, yeah, that's right.
I'm sound sarcastic here for whoever's listening.
Yeah, so everything, probably they changed their name and now every chip is embedded into something else. So
Yeah, Super Micro style.
yeah.
So James, how does Copperhead help to, I guess, counterbalance what Haseeb's doing over at the EFANI side?
Yeah, no joke.
So I think we're like, he's on one side of the stack and we're on the other side of the stack. So it's kind of synergistic where, SIM card attacks are a very realistic and very damaging threat. Haseeb talked about crypto. I mean, open up your news, you'll see, 17-year-old SIM jacking people for $40 million. We didn't have this back in I don't know how old anyone is here, but back in the day, making $40 million as a 17-year-old kid, we didn't have that back then, right? So these are real big threats. And of course, once your crypto is gone, your crypto is gone. But we protect on the device, we protect through our operating system, CopperheadOS. We protect on the application side of things. We kind of create the bubble that the SIM card can sit in. Now, the next question you guys are going to ask me, are SIM card attacks possible on CopperheadOS? Yeah, they are. I'd be lying if I said they are. We don't deal with that side of things. One of the most asked, and I would consider it a troll question at this point, would be, do you have a baseband firewall? That's kind of a meme inside of InfoSec. Can you hack a device remotely with a Stingray? You probably can. But most of devices, most mobile breaches, most data privacy concerns don't fall at that level. Not yet, at least. A lot of it is malware downloaded off Google Play, remote attacks through the browser, network attacks when you connect to like a pineapple or like a malicious Wi-Fi access point. We protect against all those.
So does Copperhead replace the Google OS, or is it bolted on? Like, how does Copperhead OS get installed, and what's its primary function?
Right, that's a great question. So we build on top of what is actually called the Android open source project. Not a lot of people are aware of this, but Google's Android is actually downstream from the Android open source project, which is called AOSP. And so we build off of AOSP. Google Android sits here. They inject all the proprietary kind of data spying situation components. We build on top of that and sidetrack it. So CopperheadOS devices currently don't have any access to Google Play. Google has no access to CopperheadOS. Our devices are very, very stripped down in terms of privacy. All we see are updates being sent in and out, and that's all the information we have. So, people ask about subpoenas and canaries and stuff like that. That is not a situation for us. We can't do anything. We can't send a malicious operating system update to anybody because we can't target them. We don't know who they are. And also, we're a legitimate company, right? EFANI is a legitimate company. It's a lot harder for law enforcement or a criminal network to say, yeah, we're going to target CopperheadOS because they have someone using it, and we're going to target all the operating systems because, at that point,
they did that in the UK recently. Law enforcement targeted the was a private messaging application that criminals were using.
You're talking about Anon?
Get what it was. It was maybe within the last 4 or 5 months.
No, Enom is different. Enom was a hardware device. And
no, not the one.
Using Pixel.
Not the one that the FBI ran. Where
maybe
there was another
or Sky. Yeah,
I forget. But so I guess my question, going back to Eric's question, for the layman's like me who don't know anything about IT, am I effectively replacing the Google Droid OS with the Copperhead OS, or are they running on the device at the same time?
Yeah, sorry, I sidestepped the question. I just ramble, I guess, all the time. But yeah, we completely replace the operating system, so it becomes Copperhead OS.
Okay,
and that's where I see that we definitely need to go if we're trying to be secured, right? Everyone always asks, so what's the best solution, right? And and so this is why Haseeb and James, why I mentioned getting them both together, right? Like this solution, especially James' clients and EFANI's clients, these are right. We've got to start somewhere, right? So we're running off of just vanilla Android and vanilla iOS, right? Just straight out the box, right? And we have no options. We'll generally have no options unless we mod our devices, and modding the devices are going to even open up more holes if you don't know what you're doing, right? So that's a big thing too. So I think we have to get down to the point where we have control over our devices and we can install these custom operating systems that literally list out what is stripped from it, right? For your safety, because otherwise people are, I hear people in Clubhouse all the time, like, I got a burner phone. No, you don't. Honestly.
Not when you bought it with a credit card and there were 35,000 cameras that
or an iCloud account.
Thank you. Thank you. Even if you carry that in your pocket, right? It's not a burner phone. You exactly what you said.
But you know what, Jonathan, in the defense of the Clubhouse people, they are brilliant. They're the smartest people in the world, and they are all experts in cybersecurity. So how dare you question?
And they're going to sell you a marketing course.
Exactly.
Oh God, yes.
Or in that case, they're going to sell you a cybersecurity course. How to secure yourself in 3 seconds.
So I want to piggyback, and I'm I'm brain fart because there's so many questions I want to ask that I know that may not be very good for this feed. But James, when we take a look from an infosec aspect, we're always complaining about the amount of telemetry that's being sent back to Google and back to Apple. Now, just for clarification, there is nothing in production or roadmap for Copperhead or anybody else to do what you're doing on the iOS platform by nature, because Apple has it so effing locked down that you can't get a squirrel to fart inside that freaking operating system, right?
I don't know if squirrels can fart inside of it. I can't confirm that, but I can tell you that iOS is very secure, and it is a double-edged sword, which is they are pretty much the baseline for mobile security, which is a great thing. But the problem is you can't open it up. You can't modify it, right? So people don't really get to see what's going on. And for example, Shiva talked about the hide my IP. The hide my IP in Safari is probably good for the layman. If you want to hop on a Safari, and you want to protect yourself against websites tracking you, but anyone who's recognized what's happened to Apple in the past is they have to favorably respond to lawful interception requests, meaning that you can hide your IP from, Pornhub or whatever website you're going to. But if someone with a subpoena wants to put themselves inside that data stream, they absolutely can.
Or app.
And
will. And I mean, it's the same thing with iCloud, which is the really big sticking point right now. Is Apple actually had on the roadmap to have end-to-end encryption of their iCloud accounts. Now, what does that mean? That means you could only access it from the device the iCloud account is using. Law enforcement, who, some of our clients, I don't want to make them upset here, but law enforcement did step on Apple's toes and said, do not implement this, because currently the easiest way to retrieve data from an Apple device is not to hack the device, it's to just go to the iCloud account because it's unencrypted.
Yeah.
which is why I do not store or backup any of my text messages to iCloud.
And you got a burner phone.
No, I don't have a burner
From Clubhouse.
I got an app for that, man. You go to the App Store, you download Burner.
Yeah,
Dude, it's untraceable. I mean,
Right.
so what if they're using your credit
I
card?
know.
It's burner because it's not registered to me in some shape or form.
Yeah.
I
You
think
Signal, right? You Signal with Telegram if you're worried about this sort of stuff.
I like Signal. I've been using it for a long time. Back when it was near impossible to make a call that actually connected for more than 3 seconds.
Text Secure, Red Phone at one point.
No, I never used that.
That's the old Signal. That's where it came from.
Okay.
I use Whisper as well. Whisper is pretty good too.
Red Phone was more for Android than it was for iOS, I think, back then.
I don't remember, but I mean, they had Chat Secure or Text Secure, and then they had Red Phone, and then that merged into Signal, and it was impossible to use. It was impossible to use.
And then there's Wicker. Law enforcement seems to
Yeah.
love Wicker.
Yeah, Wicker, that was Wicker that you talked about. You were asking about the one that law enforcement had access to.
Oh, I didn't know Wicker, but
Yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
right.
They're,
Yeah,
they're the
yeah,
biggest customer. But no, in the UK, UK police was able to infiltrate a server of one of these secure chat apps, put in a back door, and it was one of these apps that the criminals favored. So
I think that was Wicker.
everything.
No,
it was not Wicker.
It was Anchor Chat or Sky ECC for sure. And the thing is, sorry to interrupt, Shiva, I'm just going to ramble.
No, go for
it. The problem is when 99% of your messaging app are used by criminals trafficking kids, who cares? Like,
Dude,
that's
go for it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the schmuck who's cheating on his wife and
But they're not using that. They're using Signal, or they're actually just using text messages.
Yeah, you're surprised how many people are using their official email address.
Yeah. I
the
mean,
the Ashley Madison breach showed us that, right?
Yeah.
And the police and the Senate people in the down breach. But yeah, I mean, that UK thing, we get that all the time because we've kind of been in this space. There's been major takedowns. Phantom Secure was a big one in Canada. Sky ECC last year. Anchor Chat had.
I think it was Anchor Chat. I think.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, they're making millions upon millions of dollars a month, right? They're charging almost $4,000 a year for a stripped down Android version, and law enforcement just went on it. But that's the thing, when you have a service, people ask us to say, well, what happens if criminals, use Copperhead or whatever? But most of our clients are not criminals, right? And at the end of the day, if the majority of your messaging network, hopefully none of them are, but if you have a messaging network that is primarily just for criminal use, law enforcement will and can use anything it wants to take it down. Same thing with what happened to the Silk Road. The Silk Road was a drug marketplace that was put on tour back in 2011. You have spy agencies and you have cyber operators taking it down together. When you have that much criminal activity, no one's going to shed a tear for you if you get taken down, right? And
rightfully so, because you deserve it at that point.
I mean, like it's not like the guy cheating on his wife or some guy's trying to, have a subscription to some weird fetish website. It's cartel members trafficking kids, trafficking drugs, talking about hits on people. Like,
the best use of something like an EFANI or a Copperhead for me is in corporate, right? You want to get away from industrial espionage, and you don't want your competitors finding out what your edge is. So you're gonna have protected communications.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead, Jonathan.
No, that's and I think in crypto too, right? And right, like that was saying, that's why, and I think this would be like there's a lot. So me being in the crypto space myself, like working for a crypto company, a security engineer for a crypto company, we deal specifically with the I mean, we have an app, right? Like anyone else, we have, we have a wallet just like anyone else, stored on your phone. And, everyone is open to, these SIM attacks and then the attacks just from third-party attacks from other, Android apps even, right? So that's a really big deal. I don't want to have to carry around a hard wallet or a cold wallet everywhere, right? I don't want that.
Might have to. The way things keep going.
Yeah, I know, and that's why a solution like this, right? Like I know that we haven't gotten into the deep of like the technicals on how EFANI works, but I mean, I tell you, it is tough. It's like try to jack that text, right? I mean that's I love how it works, right? So, and this is the thing. If we can have this relationship with the SIM, with the SIM, the carrier, right, the SIM card, and then the operating system, I think we can get that step closer to having a more secured, immobile environment for. I mean, everything. We're seeing it now, like the transacting with blockchain. It's just nuts. It's going to go, it's going to increase.
The problem I see is the number of people that want this is far fewer than the people who care about getting a cheap price on a phone. Look at TVs. The reason they're that cheap is because they are selling your data. They're hot mic'd, they're internet connected, and everything you do is sent back to essentially what is a command and control server, parsed, categorized, sold. And that's why a $3,000 TV is now $350 anywhere.
Yep.
But James, back question for you. What's your business model? How is this thing sold to people?
Yeah. So we're business to business. We focus on the same industries as EFANI, the same target market. We got a lot of intake. So we got a lot of customer requests. We have some from military. We have some from the intelligence community. We have some from financial. So we sell it as a licensed solution, and there's different ways to get it. You can have an on-premise solution if you want to have your own signing keys, which is important for compliance, for international militaries or even NATO militaries. Or you can have a licensed solution from us or redeploy it. And again, we don't have any insight into the device data, but we use our signing keys. We protect it. We provide updates come bi-weekly. And, an interesting use case, for example, just for people listening, they might say, I've never had an application hacked. I don't understand why I need this. One of our clients was in the UK, was a cosmetic surgery clinic for very, very high profile celebrities. And they actually they came to us and I said, this is interesting. What do you need us for? Because I was asked that question. Why not? Right. And they said, well, we got hacked last year and the hackers intended to extort the celebrities, because what they would do is they would take the photos of the before and send it to the news, TMZ, whoever else, and say, look what they look like now. And so it's the average person, they think, well, that's crazy. Who is that worth any money? That's worth a lot of money. That's worth a lot of money.
And that Daily Mail would pay tremendous amounts of money for that.
Right. Exactly. So they came to us and said, this breach was actually mobile. They hacked the phone somehow. And they got the photos from our doctors, because what happens is their surgeons have to take pictures of the before and after. So they hack the device now.
And what's better than a cell phone camera? Like, I'm not being facetious here, but the quality of the picture coming off of these things now is far better than they've ever been.
And everyone's got one, right? So
with both EFANI and Copperhead, because you are what I would consider proprietary and more secure, with the end result of limiting access to not only the SIM, but the device, how do you, if at all, play with mobile device management products like a Microsoft Intune, Jamf, or any of the 5,000 other versions of?
I can hop on that quick. So we integrate with all mobile device management platforms. When we deploy it to a company, obviously we tell them, look, your privacy will be invaded by the MDM company. That's not us. Even on an on-premise network, that, just like you're talking about the text storing, text archiving system, they have those in MDM, right? And a lot of these messaging applications they need to use actually need to store the messages somewhere for compliance purposes, right? So we integrate all MDMs. And what's great nowadays is, a couple of years ago, it was really hard for mobile device management platforms to integrate with non-Google-fied devices. They relied on Google's APIs to tap into the device. There's actually a very big movement now to use non-Google-fied Android. And so MDM is actually now kind of trending with that, where now you can install an MDM without Google on the device, which is great for us.
Cool.
And I can tell you on our side, we integrate with all the MDNs, but the beauty is if you have EFANI, you don't need MDN. Because we can pretty much block any IP. So if you don't allow this app to transmit any data, we can block IP. So one of our largest client, what they have done, they have set up a list of 100 plus websites, only transmit data to these websites in this package. So like if you're sending a WhatsApp, you cannot send a video on WhatsApp, just to give you an example, because the payload is too high. So if you're sending any kind of request to any servers, which are beyond those specific websites, it wouldn't allow you to do so. So EFANI is there to replace MDNs. We work with MDNs, but our goal is that it should be seamless. We don't want more intrusion and more, surveillance on our phones. And I personally believe that's actually bad, because an analogy for that, MDN actually is someone want to protect you. They live inside your house. What we do is we secure guard your house that no one can come or enter without your permission. So we work on the network side. So yes, someone may be able to send, but if someone is unable to send requests or take any requests, they can't do anything. So that's where we come in.
How do you deal with Cloudflare IPs and CDNs?
So we have our own internal system, and I've said, we use the regular filter that companies can produce, and happy to give you a demo on that too. But it's actually, there's a couple of trade secrets, but other than that, what we can do is you can set up 10 websites, and it would not go beyond that. It's like similar to, you can check the traffic internally, as in, on the telecom, so they can assess the traffic which is coming in and coming out. It's not just the website, it's also content of the website that goes in and out.
You're able to review you're able to do content filtering?
We can do that, yeah, for customers.
How do you do that without SSL stripping?
So we don't control the data. So we give you, so it's your server. And on your server, you can set up all the policies that you want.
Now, is that server, its contents, what is filtering going to be responsive to a subpoena?
No, because we can't get subpoena. So if we get subpoena, we'll just pass on to the client.
What do you mean if you get subpoena?
No, so if we get subpoena, we don't have enough content. We just, imagine I got a subpoena and my client is James. So I'll just pass it on to James because James says. So James basically...
He's in Canada. He's like, no.
Oh, well, we have RCMP in Canada.
Well, so, I guess my question.
My question is that we don't have access to that data, right? Because
he's holding the keys.
He's holding the keys. So even if it comes to me, Haseeb cannot do anything.
But you guys said you have content filtering, right? How are you able to determine the content through an SSL stream?
Because it
should be encrypted.
Correct. So the software does not run on our system. We give you kind of license you on your server.
So the on-premise system does the content filtering and also is able to encrypt the traffic to do so.
Correct. And we don't have access to that information. So if someone comes to me, I can say, hey, this is James. I can tell you how much data did he use in the month, but I can't go beyond that.
Okay. So now you're hosting this server, container, whatever we want to call it, correct?
It depends on the customer premises. Like some customers want to hold it on-prem.
Okay.
Or some customers want to be like a third party like AWS.
So we're essentially just proxying everything through that server.
Correct. It's your own tunnel that EFANI doesn't have access to. So what we are trying to do is, in the future, is that we are trying to build a movement called Own a Telecom Network, where we allow anyone to build their own telecom tower, their own antennas, and their own, more like a private LTE system, where people are able to just build their own networks, which are totally private, but they also work with external systems too. And frankly, our goal is to hold as less of a data as possible because we don't need the data.
Okay.
But there's some regulatory requirement with FCC and other things that we have to hold on to. Right. And again, we obey by the law and we do not encourage any criminal to use it. That's why we don't offer our premium services to anyone.
Now,
And
is
how do
the
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
How do you accept payment? Do you accept Bitcoin and cash or cash?
So we never accepted cash, but we accept cryptocurrency and we accept wires. Normally, 99% of customers pay in wire.
Of course. But that would be a question that you'll have, right? If people are trying to get around the subpoena lawful interception, they'll try to defer the payment to something that's harder to trace. Now, Bitcoin is easy to trace. We don't know what you're doing, but then is a question.
Yeah, I don't know if you know about Bitcoin, but I made one of the largest Bitcoin ATM network in the world. We have, I think, 8,000 locations or something. The one in Toronto, the first one in Toronto was installed by us.
That's Badger? Honey Badger?
No, Honey Badgers are a friend, but a bit access. So we have the largest network. So if you look any city, we were the first one in every major city. If you see any Bitcoin ATM with like a yellow screen, that's pretty much us.
Cool.
So, but anyway, so I understand this industry of subpoena. It's really bad, but my question to us, like basically we are not allowing people to make criminal activities, cheat on their spouses. What we are saying is that, hey, no one should have access to your data.
Well, no, it's about privacy for me, right?
Yeah,
and I think
correct.
A subpoena is the easiest way for the vast majority of people to understand how much data is available, because they watch the Law and Order. They're all
Correct.
pouched attorneys, and they know everything.
Yeah.
So it's an easy comparison, which is why I keep going to that.
Yeah. So we just say that we keep minimal data, and we only focus on security. That's why we don't even advertise privacy. We only focus on security, that no one should be able to get out of your phone without information.
Can you clarify something for me? If
Sure.
Jonathan didn't introduce me to you, could I just come off the street and say, hey, I want to get service from you? Or do I have to be invited, referred?
So for regular product, which is SIM swap protection, it's open to everyone. You can go online, you can buy it. Other protection, it's only invite only.
Okay.
So we have to qualify a customer, because the reason for that is we don't want to get into trouble. And frankly, we have so much demand internally and within our customer that we don't have to go far and sell it to other people. The cost itself justify that we do. And we work with, I'll very clear with you, right? Everyone, that we will abide to all the laws.
Now, what's the cost of both the...
The other one is $2,500 per year.
Okay.
But it includes global roaming. And what we are doing right now is we're actually also launching our nodes, which allow you to build your own cell phone tower within your house for $500. So that we should be announcing within a week.
Okay.
So it comes with this awesome case. It's RFID blackened case. So it's actually pretty neat, really high quality. And of course, you can store your cards too. I mean, I know you can probably purchase this, but it's just a nice plus, that it comes with some, this is a non-paid, promotion of this product.
Yeah,
This
is a non-paid promotion for this.
When I asked you, they said, how much money are you getting from
Oh, those are
No,
just,
I can. Yeah, I made it clear, right? We don't.
You have to welcome those, Jonathan, because my default thing for all this stuff is enragement equals engagement.
yeah, exactly.
Let it fly.
Copperhead knows all about that.
Yeah.
So with EFANI, if I wanted to use your service, do I need your SIM or can I use eSIM?
So right now that's the same app carrier package thing. We don't have it right now, just specifically for eSIM. But yes, you can buy online. You can get SIM card online through the regular package.
Look at that. I want the fancy shit, man. I'm special.
So you have to get to a regular SIM first before we can qualify to a second level. It's invite only, and
I know the owner. I'm not.
I know the owner. Let me bypass it.
man, frankly, I can't help you out. Sorry.
All right, no one wants to buy. Give you a 0 star. I'm just joking.
No, that's your choice. You can do whatever you want to do.
Relax.
No. Yeah, we don't even I think Jonathan can testify. We say, guys, test out our product. Say whatever you want, unbiased.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fun. When I first got to, the service is awesome. First off, easy setup, right? So when you purchase it, so it comes, it's like, it's like a regular SIM card, right? You pop it out, you send them a message online. They walk you through everything. It's pretty simple, pretty easy process. Of course, it's best like your phone should be unlocked. That's the thing, that's the best scenario that you could possibly encounter, right? That is something to note. So if you do have like a carrier lock, I mean, it's I think you can get around. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, Haseeb. Could you can get around the carrier lock, but it's best if it's unlocked.
So it depends, right? Like, if you're an AT&T, we can get around, we can put you on AT&T network, but we prefer that phone is unlocked because the challenge is you can get unlocked when you're on your current service, but when you leave the service, it's very difficult to get it unlocked.
So
Right.
I have a question here. If I were to use an EFANI SIM card, the physical piece, and I use a Verizon eSIM,
Yeah.
I'm still subjected to the backdoor Verizon because of the eSIM.
So okay. So that's a little different scenario.
I like worst case scenarios.
Okay, worst case scenarios.
But why do you want to use two SIM cards? Why don't you just
Because I like throwing monkey wrenches into
okay.
Just had to go there, didn't you?
But just to be clear, that we transfer your current number.
No,
Yeah.
this isn't a question
Yeah.
specific to EFANI and your service. This is like, let's just say there are people who want to run both for whatever reason, right? And you're getting the protection of the EFANI SIM by not having the plist data uploaded and creating that structural backdoor. But what happens when you run both now?
Yeah, you're open.
Okay.
Yeah, you're open because the eSIM is downloading that PRL data and then executing the XML. I just want to be straight up about it because, that is the scenario. Somebody asked me that actually recently. And you have to, if you're running both, you're still open.
Okay.
And that's just how it is. I haven't found a fix yet. Unless I actually had CopperheadOS, then I could actually fix it. Honestly, I could literally. So I could actually stop the specific PRL data that's being downloaded, and actually modify it. Basically, I have full root access to the device in that sense, right? Of course, I don't know if you guys give that at CopperheadOS. Well, no, but I'm sure if I could, if you allowed a public,
the Jonathan and the Shiva. Jonathan can do that shit. I'll be like, Jonathan, can you do this for me? Yeah.
So I would, if I'm a big corporation, right, and I want to have both, and I would say, hey, James, I want you to stop this eSIM, and then you'd make a custom build or something. I don't know, probably, but and I showed you exactly why, and then, whatever it is that you get, I would need that. I need root access. I need root access to modify this on a normal Android device. Otherwise, it's just going to be, we're open. But I need that root access.
Can't you just scream sudo at your phone and it opens up?
I think so.
Only if Siri.
Sometimes. Yeah, if Siri. Yeah.
James, is that a stock feature of Copperhead to be able to block the backdoor from the SIM?
No, like I mentioned, we don't really deal with the SIM, but what Jonathan's talking about is kind of advanced level techniques where we don't grant root access. And that's at one point, that was the most asked question. How do I get root on the phone? The answer is you don't. Because if you can get root, then someone else can, right? But what Jonathan's talking about is he would pull down our source available code and he or us would modify it so that we would either strip that out so when it's built and compiled and deployed, it doesn't exist. Or we'd add some sort of level of blacklist components where we just blacklist it at all time.
I think that should be a paid add-on feature.
Yeah, for sure.
I like how you think.
I take royalties just to say.
That's your fee. Let's go.
Yeah.
30% and
put it into a smart contract.
Just like Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I
think with James, I absolutely, because one of the problems that we face is that even just the FaceTime thing, it's a small thing. I don't know why people use FaceTime today. That's me. But people use FaceTime.
It's built in.
Yeah. And
I only talk to people who have blue bubbles.
And people actually I would not use service if it doesn't have FaceTime. Our goal has been to make it as seamless as your current carrier. So one of the challenges that we faced was that with some two-factor authentication companies, they read data and the SMS would not get delivered because of, they say, oh, you are now based in Costa Rica while you should be in America to receive this text message.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked them, how would they know that information? Like, think about it. Why would they know that because the previous company was selling the information. So we blocked those things. So we do get some kind of these kind of issues, and we keep on solving, making it as convenient as possible. So when Jay mentioned that they don't allow root access, because once you allow root access and everything, it becomes, now you doesn't have Copperhead anymore, and someone may get compromised and tomorrow, oh, he was using Copperhead. Yeah. Right. And then, who takes the blame? Copperhead takes the blame. I'm sorry for talking on your behalf, but that's what happened. Like we give you this thing because we can kind of assure it. And that's what Apple's strategy has been too. They can only assure whatever they have built. So even though it looks bad from optics point of view that they are controlling a lot of stuff, but you don't want Apple devices to go and go bonkers and people playing around with it, because they are able to detect a lot of threats that an average phone, if the phone is open source, it may be very difficult to get. And that's why how many people jailbreak their phone? I don't know, like 0.01%, or how many people?
Not in 10 years. Not
yeah. And even for rooting the phone, how many people root the phone? Because every time you root the phone, there's some application that doesn't work out. Yeah. So I think I
just want my phone to work every time.
So correct.
I leave it as it is.
That's what I prefer too. And that's what I say. If you put in, obviously that's my own thing. EFANI, people say, oh, can I do this? Oh, just put a SIM card, use your current carrier, use your current telephone number, and nothing changes. That's pretty much about it.
This is this is important, I think, to mention for why both of these, I guess Eric left. So it's important to mention for both of these, EFANI and CopperheadOS. Look, all of this information that's being, as far as data privacy goes, all the information that's on our devices, VPN data even, is being sent back to servers, right? I've talked about this, I've showed this, I've proven this even with code. And the big thing to understand is, as we go into, a metaverse, as we go into this, web, as we're, progressing in Web3, let me give you an example. Just recently, so I proved that the LiDAR is constantly scanning on an iPhone, right? So it's constantly scanning your environment and sending that data back to Apple servers. Now let's imagine this, and again, I'm going to do the research on an Android, but let's imagine that we're having in a government office, your iPhone is on and it's scanning your entire environment. Okay. Well, when you scan an environment, I mean, truly, I don't know if you ever used the LiDAR on an iPhone before, but you can literally zoom in to your home, your bedroom. Like you can see exactly, it's pretty amazing. Like you can literally, it's a 3D world. It looks like a video game, but it looks very, very realistic. There's an app, I'll get it here in a second. I'll check it out, I'll give you that you can use. It's amazing, but all that information's headed out. It's from your device, and here it's a free app. You use this free app, and then that's it. But again, it's without the app, that LiDAR, right, on the back of your camera, on the back of the phone, is constantly on and constantly being triggered and taking that snapshot of your environment. And it knows if it's already taken that image, let's say from your room, if it already, and it has, if it's a fruit, it already knows that it's a fruit. If it's a bed, it already knows that it's a bed. And all this is in the code. And I've posted it on the Twitter. I've shown the lines of code. I've shown, it's exactly how this is working. If we don't have these custom operating systems, I mentioned this in a podcast one day, and I said, "Are you okay with someone going into your home and sleeping in your child's bed?" Because that's how it's working now, right? They can have literally a 3D model of your entire home, like your entire bedroom, and it is realistic. So when you put on those VR goggles, you can know what it's like. You can lay down and in the same spot where that bed would be, and you can look right and you can look left and you can look up and you can literally see everything that's in that room, and you will know that person's intimate spots in that room, whatever it is, in a way that you've never seen it before. But we have to block this, and this is why the data privacy is so important. This is where we're going. I mean, people don't care. Well, they already have all my data. Do they have what kind of sheets are on your child's bed? Not.
I think a lot of it is an education problem.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
People, they don't see what you see. They don't see what Haseeb or James saw to make them build an EFANI and a Copperhead.
Sure.
Right? They just know whatever they are subjecting themselves to on whichever social media or what have you.
And I think one thing we have to talk about privacy is that we have gone digital. There's no way we will become like, okay, unless you start living in rocks with all the disconnect communication and grow your own everything. It's impossible.
Short of an EMP, you're right. Like,
Yes.
it's just we are connected, and it is what it is.
So the quality of life will decrease significantly if we try to focus more. But privacy it's difficult. I fly, my everything is set up. Like, I'll give you a simple example. EFANI uses a courier company, and how do we ensure the courier company? Like, I cannot go and physically deliver it to Shiva.
Yeah.
Even if I do, I have to fly on a plane, which means that there's some bit of information that's being pulled into data.
I think there's always opportunity for interdiction. Like, I mean, if someone wants to get something, they can.
Correct. So we just make it difficult, and we just say that why don't we focus on security part rather than privacy part? So like everyone knows Mark Zuckerberg, but no one can get to him because it's secure. You may find his address, but you can't get into his house. So that's the concept behind how we look at things, that yes, your number is my number. One of the numbers I have is like one of the easiest number in America, and yes, you
3059 or whatever the heck the song is.
86309. We just goddamn area code.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's easy. Anyone can know it, but no one can get into that. Similar with phones too. I think privacy is difficult to sell. It's a very, very expensive to be private. Like house, you can live in an apartment building with like dozen of other tenants, or you can have your own private road and everything. Expensive, similar to digital too. So just focus on security and just live with whatever we have.
I'd like to jump in there, Boswell. I think I'll politely, respectfully disagree, Steve. I think privacy is security at this point. We live in the digital age. If the less things that are private about you, the more things that can be used against you, right? For example, you talked about the house. There are people who register real estate holding trusts as a corporation, and that's what their house is under. So now you're protected by corporate registry laws, right? Where they have to find out who the board member is. And maybe the board member of that corporation is another corporation. And they start playing the same game as, companies inside the Panama Papers and stuff. But what I mean to say is, if you have information out there about you, it's going to be used against you, right? The less out there about you, the better. And now it's hard to deal with data that is out there already, right? And that's probably the thing that I think people's first privacy lesson is going to be that they're going to Google their name. They're going to see the high school they went to. They're going to see their silly line journal entries they wrote when they're 16. And they're going to go, oh my God, where is this data stored? Now look at all the things used against me. So I think privacy and security aren't separate things anymore. I think they're intertwined. That's what we feel about things, at least, because we understand that, the information used against you, that's a security risk.
So
when you look at sorry, go ahead.
So let's dive down that road. So, I mean, what James was saying, if you ever want a shot, go log back into your old MySpace account and be like, oh my God,
No one gets to see that.
Exactly. But everybody is getting, me and Shiva's talked about this numerous times. We'll take ransomware as a case and I'll pivot back to the topic, but everybody knows about ransomware for the most part. They just don't think it applies to them or it will affect them until they get fucked in the ass by ransomware. Everybody knows that Facebook is doing some sort of algorithm. LinkedIn is doing some sort of algorithm. So they get numb to the whole process. I don't know if because they've gotten so numb, because you talk about data mining or stripping of this and, you know, being able to run all of these algorithms, because you're getting more technical than just a 5,000 foot view or 30,000 foot view, they go deer in the headlight and they don't know what the fuck to do. Like, so I don't know. I think people need to be educated. I'm 100,000% with you. I just don't know the proper way without them just spacing the hell out.
I think it always goes back to education, but unfortunately you have to build it first. The platforms, the EFANIs, the Copperheads, to show them why. Because it's easier to show someone why they should use a platform like that to try to explain and teach them why. Yeah. I think.
That's a good point. Like we put out a YouTube video showing the connections coming from a Google Android versus a Copperhead. And Google Android connections, it's like 800 a second. Right? And I mean, a hacker is going to chime in and say, well, you could put as much data in one connection as you want. Yeah, that's cool, man. But you know what we're talking about. We're talking about every time your phone moves from here to here, that's a new connection. That's a new data transfer. Yep. Right. Well, let me throw this back to the host, maybe Eric and Shiva. What do you think you could build that would teach someone something?
I'm an idiot. I can't build shit.
Count mine. Wave your magic wand. You're as intelligent as Jonathan. What would you build?
A machine to give people common sense.
If you could build that, you would be a
I mean, look, I mean, I'm in incident response. You know, I talked about it earlier. I'm going through SANS training, and you know, that's, you know, I do a lot of pen testing. I do a lot of incident response and stuff like that. I mean, coding and stuff like that. I mean, I'm getting into the sim jacking because of Jonathan, because I'm like, oh, you know, like I don't even hack on iOS, and I know there's a whole big bug bounty crowd, and you know, for iOS and Android hacking and all that stuff. But you know, I'm not even into that world, so I don't know really what to build, except for kind of what we're talking about is education. And, you know, having folks like you guys on podcasts like this to help educate people. And like, look, there is something bigger out here. You know, we're scratching the surface because, again, I don't want to go too deep into the weeds and lose people. And I feel that we got there a little bit, but I know we can go really, really deep and like even confuse the shit out of myself and Shiva. But, you know, I think these are the conversations that need to happen. And that way people could be like, hey, James, hey, Haseeb, hey, Jonathan, I need to know more. This really struck a chord with me. I need to know how to protect myself. How can these things do this? And that's really what we are trying to do here.
Well, to go back to James, to go back to your question, to actually give you a serious answer, I'm not the type of person that wants to build something. I'm the type of person that wants to learn as much as I can. So when my clients come to me with a problem or a need, I can say, hey, let's go take a look at this solution here. Like, Haseeb, you said a lot of your clients are celebrities or what have you.
Yes, celebrity, C-level executive, and
I have
lawyer.
I have a lot of personal connections in that realm. I have a lot of business connections in that realm. So now when they tell me they want a more secure communication platform, my default answer has always been, well, just use Signal, use one, you know, Telegram, because that's what's commercially available. Because that's what I knew before this conversation.
Still solid.
Now, my answer is going to be, hey, if you're okay giving up the iPhone, go to EFANI.
No, sorry. Just to be clear, no, you don't have to give your iPhone.
Well, hold on. You got to wait for the answer, though. If you want to give up the iPhone, go get your SIM from EFANI. Go get a Droid or some kind of Google piece of shit phone. Call James. Put Copperhead on there. Marry those two, and you're probably going to be in a better position than not.
And use Signal on top of that, and you're good to go.
I mean, if you know, just have that unified messaging and whatever, yeah, great, fine. But to me, that seems like a more feasible solution for someone who's really worried about, you know, the Daily Mail or industrial espionage or someone like that getting into their system. I mean, to me, best marketing you guys can get is if Jeff Bezos starts using you. after his phone hacking scandal. Hey,
Mhm.
We confirmed too that, not to gloat, but we did confirm that the vulnerability used against him would not have worked on Copperhead.
and that's good for people to understand and know, because there
Yeah.
are many versions of him that need that type of protection.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the reality is too, I'm going to take myself down a notch now. They might not find a vulnerability in in Copperhead, the one they used, but they have enough money and time to look for other one. And that's always what it is. It's always a race against time, a race for resources. Now, I think in terms of education, I think what's really going to blow people's mind, and I talked to Roger from Tor Project about, if anyone's familiar with Tor, it's like an anonymous network.
Yeah.
And we're kind of aligned on this, which is people are really probably only going to realize how much data is out there about them. And I'm sorry, we're getting a little hokey here, but once AI has become commercially more available and you can run a program that takes an hour to grab literally everything ever done on the internet about you, it gives you a picture. That's going to scare people. I hope.
You know what's going to make them realize much faster is when they realize how much their data is worth and if they can make money selling it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the promise of Web 3.0, right? You can basically be a product, but at the same time, you make money off it. I think cost of per user on Facebook was like $40 or something. Now in America, it's nothing, but like someone in Asia or like developing, the $40 is a lot of money. If they get paid, they will use it platform more. And I think that's the entire promise of Web 3.0. Sorry for the cryptography, crypto economy plug, but why can't you participate in the system that is basically being used by you?
Well,
Right.
it's being built by you.
Built by you, abused by you.
I mean,
You're a product, but you're also taking advantage of your own data.
Facebook just gave everyone a place to put their verbal diarrhea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're worth
And Twitter. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
When you understand what your data is worth to people and how you can monetize your data, then I think you become dangerous to these companies like a Facebook, a Twitter, or any one of the 1,000 membership platforms.
Yeah, that's the I think you're right. When people can finally see why it is that share, having all these data points collected on them, why it's important, and then I think they'll start, let's just say when America starts getting a social credit score, or
It's coming.
North America, right, at all, like I think that's people are going to say, wait a second,
It's coming. And
yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah. Yes. You're sorry. Go ahead.
I think it's coming, and Facebook's pivot to Meta is the beginning stage of that.
You could argue we technically already have it with the pandemic situation too.
Correct.
One could make that argument.
Yeah, I mean it's there to a degree, but I think we're gonna have a version that's gonna be almost on par with what they're doing over in China very soon.
No, I think like, I'll give you vaccine passport, this is separately, but like that's coming, right? You cannot enter a restaurant if you don't have a specific drug.
We already have that.
Yeah. So like, correct. Similar to that, we have a redlining. If you go back and how houses were discriminated because of your color of your skin, you could not qualify for the same house.
Right.
So near neighborhoods in America, technically you cannot buy a house if you do not belong to a specific color, and or you would not live to specific neighborhoods if you're not a specific color.
Yeah,
So-
that goes back to the
Redlining.
the government built housing development,
Correct.
the suburbs
So-
back in the 30s, I think it was.
Right.
There is social lining, like admissions to schools and everything. But again, this is not a political podcast. But other than that,
Oh, this podcast is anything you want it to be.
Let's not make
Yeah.
it all political.
yeah. But anyways, like it is coming, right? And obviously, the people who are vulnerable are being attacked the most. Like in SIM swapping, I'll give you an example. Our case is if you're a high net celebrity, you basically have a team who can actually protect your data and they can contact us. But if you're an average person who's just getting by, you have nowhere to ask for help. And no one will care. If you go to law enforcement and say, I lost my $10,000 and that's all I had, no one cares. Literally no one.
The FBI just upped it, even for ransomware. If it's not more than $500,000,
Yeah.
Yeah.
go local.
But I tell you, even at $750,000, they don't give a shit.
Well, there are too
Yeah,
many.
They can't. They can't.
Yeah.
They don't have the resources to meet the demand, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And what are they going to really do anyways? They're going to track down a 17-year-old Russian kid? That's not going to happen. I did incident response, like Eric was talking about it, and part of our checklist is contact local law enforcement. Right? We have the local hotline, and it'd be like, "Hey, John, we got another one. Add it to your 10,000 pile list over there that we're going to be action on." Right?
Yeah, so similar to that, like, how can you basically, like, I remember when, like, we had big robberies in San Francisco a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
I think last week, where people just farmed into Louis Vuitton store, took everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not even a crime to steal less than $1,000 in Spain, where I am.
So for $1,000.
So it's stupidity, but again, we can rant about it, but this is the system we live in, and we all have to play our roles. That's what I think. There'll be Copperheads, like, there'll be competition to EFANI. There'll be like 10 companies. Like, it's better the way that we have competition. People should come in and do a better job at security.
I like competition. I do believe in the zero-sum game. However, I think there needs to be a degree of threat intel sharing.
Yeah.
To help raise some standards, which I know is kind of an oxymoron coming from me. But
So
where's your threat intel feed?
Where is mine?
Yeah.
I'm a CrowdStrike subscriber, so we get what we get from them, and then I go to Twitter, man. Everything's with Twitter.
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, it's a whole different story. But you get. I try to read as much as I can from as many different sources as I can, whether I agree with them or not, philosophically.
Recorded Futures, some platform that I just go right to, man. It's amazing.
We've done a few episodes with John Wetzel, who's
Mhm.
their director of intelligence over there, and Alan Liska, who's head of their CSERT. We've done a few episodes with them. We really like them. We got, they're very accommodating, and they really enjoy sharing what they can.
Yeah.
And if you can read stuff out of the Instinct group that they do make public, that's not part of their subscription, I highly recommend that.
For sure. Yeah, I actually validated the Pegasus hashes with Recorded Future. So, which is the one that's actually on, the decompiled Pegasus in my GitHub.
Okay.
So when VX Underground actually put out the hashes for Pegasus, I mean, I know the guys, right? But I have to validate it as well. Just can't take someone's word like this is the correct,
Of course.
malware. So I used Recorded Future to actually, validate that this is truly the malware, and it was cool. I had a call with them actually a couple days ago. Good guys.
They're a smart group of people.
100%.
They're really doing a good job. Question, I guess my last question for Haseeb and James. I don't know if you can even admit to this. Have you guys found any indicators of compromise for Pegasus on your platforms?
Not on ours. No, nothing.
James?
We haven't had any reports of it. We've had a lot of people think they have it, but it's never what they think it is.
Okay.
We direct people to Jonathan's GitHub. There is another open source tool. I think it's called MWCL, something along those lines. And our NGO partners, when the Pegasus drop came out, we sent them a message stuff. But keep in mind, Pegasus has been around for years, and we've been aware of it for years, right? And it's one exploit kit amongst many. And that's the other thing is that to talk about NSO specifically, there was what was the other one from Italy? I don't know what it's called anymore. There's a whole bunch of offensive security tools that are used in nefarious ways, right? So, but to answer your question succinctly, we've not had any reports. If we did, we'd talk about it because it's frankly quite interesting. I mean, if Pegasus could hack us, we'd like to know about it. We came out with a blog post saying they probably don't, because at the end of the day, why are you going to hack Copperhead? It's going to cost $2 million to say to hack Copperhead when you can spend $20,000 to hack the same stuff. That's
unless there's an actual target they're going for.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Super targeted. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, that's it for me. Eric, I don't know if you have anything else for them.
Nah, I'm just gonna go upstairs and burn my sheets and move all of my kids' furniture around now.
I love going into spaces with you, man, because you're just super straight up, straightforward. And I remember the last space that we were in, the Twitter space we were in. You were
Oh God.
you were like, look, I'm blunt, I'm straightforward, and you don't know shit. You don't know shit. You don't know shit. And let me tell I loved it, dude. I loved it.
Podcast started in Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's what you said.
Yeah, we would go in there. He and I would just like start shitting on the stupidity in the MSP market for me and the IR market for him. And we're like, hey, let's just record this and throw it up. And here we are. I guess with that said, Jonathan, Haseeb, James, any closing thoughts, arguments, anything?
Jonathan, you good?
I'm good.
Thanks. If I can make a quick plug, just
Yeah, of course. And how can people reach out to you and give you their money?
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. So find us at copperhead.co. We provide CopperheadOS, which works on Google Pixel and soon to be Xiaomi devices. Send us an email if you're a business and you're looking to up your mobility security solution. Get in touch with us. We are flexible and we'll make sure we protect your clients.
All right, Habib. Haseeb, sorry.
Yeah, we are a boutique cell phone service. Think about Verizon, but secure. That doesn't sell you data. That's pretty much about it. If you want a better service, come to us. EFANI.com, EFANI.com. You can call us, and that's what we do. If you get hacked with your current carrier, you may get a letter of apology. In our case, no, you're insured for $5 million in insurance. So
Who's
something
carrying?
goes, Lloyd's of London. So if something goes
I
wrong,
heard of them before. I think
I think they're okay company.
Yeah.
So tier 1 carrier. So something goes wrong, you're covered. No more. I'm sorry for any inconvenience that's cost to you. No.
No, you give them Experian monitoring for a year, even though the rest of their lives affected.
Yeah. No, it doesn't work like that way. So anyway, so that's what we do. And come to us, like even if you can't afford or there's some other reasons, talk to us and we'll help you in the right direction.
Cool.
That's awesome.
My personal username is Haseeb, like HASEEB on Twitter. So I'm happy. I respond to all the questions.
Ladies and gentlemen and ghouls that are out there on the internet, if you have made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in for yet another episode of Amplified and Intensified.com. You know what? A recent change to the platform, Shiva has put together a new website, Amplified and Intensified.com. If you have heard anything that you have liked about this podcast and you want to engage Shiva or myself, or be able to help sponsor by donating us some coffee, all the links of our calendars, buying us coffee, past episodes of both the podcast and the YouTube version are all now on Amplified and Intensified.com. Go there for all of your needs. Thank you so much. And until next time, take care.